Well, hey y'all, and welcome back to Boo Chronicles. What's love got to do with it? I'm Angie Palmer. I'm here with Nicola Staples, and we are getting you ready for what we consider to be an exciting episode. If you recall, last episode we talked to young 20 something year olds and got their perspective on love and relationships. Well, we decided we would expand a little bit from the 20 somethings to the 50 somethings. Grown folk. This grown folk business, grown dating. And what we're going to do today is kind of get a little bit of insight on how they view love, how they view relationships, and their roles in it. The joke I tell is that the weather girl said it, and then Rihanna said it. It's raining men on Boo Chronicles today. We've got with us two folks on Zoom and two folks here in the studio. The folks on Zoom are married men. We have Rich, who's in Detroit, and we have Mike, who is in Ohio. And here in the studio, we have David, here from Washington, D.C., as well as Kenny, who's also here from Washington, D.C. Ready to go? You ready to go?
Let's go. What's love got to do with it? Boo Chronicles.
This is for the single guys here. What attracts you to the women that you date? Are there signs or red flags that make you immediately want to run for the hills? Ken, you want to?
Yeah, that makes me recall that I say, hello's gotten me into many different situations, some good and some bad, but it always starts with hello. I guess what attracts me to women has evolved over time. What attracts me now is a lot different than when I was in my 20s. I think now it's a lot about personality. It has a lot to do with things that we have in common, our values, both of us in terms of our moral system and so forth. And I'll be completely honest, whatever that I view as attractive, each man has a different version or definition of what's attractive. So,
Do you want to answer that same question then?
I guess I'll only add what attracts me to a woman starts with obviously that hello, like Ken. Let's just say there's obviously a physical attraction. I'm going to start with it really helps me more now at 50 to be at work and be in a space where I'm doing the best work that I can do, that I feel really good about, and I'm in my element. And then you wind up meeting this woman in that element. It's really a lot more attractive at this stage in my life than if I was at a bar or if I was just hanging out. Because I've found that when I've met a woman in a bar or hanging out or just living my life, by the time I try to get back to business and I gotta really focus, sometimes there's that disconnect. And you talked about that red flag. The red flag is I've always been doing this. I've always been working hard. I have a plan. And I might have met you at dinner. I might have met you with some sorority girls. I might have met you on vacation. But when I get back to what I do that keeps me focused, that inspires me and motivates me, I'm more attracted to a woman who I don't have to reintroduce myself. She met me in my best space. And then it doesn't have to turn into this red flag all of a sudden when I say, I have meetings or I have relationships or I have organizations that I have to be a part of. And then there's this red flag that went from we had a great time, we've been having great conversations, and now that you're comfortable 2 months in, 3 months in, it's where am I going? Who are those people?
Do you consider that an insecurity? If you were to label what that is?
It's clearly an indication that you don't know me even after 3 months. Mm-hmm. When I said I'm passionate about being a servant leader and I work in a library as a branch manager and I serve a community, that is actually who I really am. And I really want to be in a relationship with you, and I really want to love you, and I would really love to start to grow in that other space. until you start trying to question the man that I really am.
Okay.
Who you should not be questioning at this point in my life, where I'm going, what I'm doing, who are these people that have been in my life that you should be joining me in this space and with these people, because that's why I'm well. That's why I'm a solid guy. And I don't really want, you know, to have to be choosing between a woman that I think I really want to be with, because I want to grow into this space of relationship and love in the next chapter, and then be a conflict with what motivates me as an individual and what's been keeping me well as a man, doing the right thing.
Okay,
Hey, Angie, can I add one thing?
sure.
Because he brought up red flags, and I just wanted to talk about that evolution. There was a time I was strictly about, if she looks good, I can put up with anything. We hit a red flag, I just ignore it. I keep ignoring it. Now, I'm more of, if I hit a red flag and it's really one that's part of my constitution, like, we're done, because I already know it's not going to go anywhere, so why waste her time?
What are some of those red flags?
It's really about us establishing us empathical, and it's kind of hard to say it's situational. You know, maybe she likes to do things at certain times, definitely not in there really going out at night or going to clubs. So maybe she wants to do that. Now, would I do it for my partner? Sometimes because I care, absolutely. But if it's all the time, I'm like, look, I'm not the person. And then it gets deeper from there. But I'm definitely saying, once you get a few red flags, I cut it loose now. But before, you know, I'd hang in there until it just was no more.
The married man. How do you make it work so that both of you feel empowered? Is there one person that has the last word?
Honestly, we've been together a long time. We lived together before we were married. So it's been 25 years of marriage and probably 5 years before that. And we've always been pretty even. Like, we have our strengths. And by the way, we're very different in a lot of ways. And yet we understand like that the other one sort of makes the other one better. And we sort of lean into the strong points of each other. And we take the lead when it's time. And I think it's sort of understood now, like what we're good at. We don't have to necessarily negotiate. Doesn't mean we don't scrap about it all the time. Or I don't have ego to think that maybe I'm coming up and maybe better at something. But definitely we know, I think at the bottom of our hearts, we know who's good at what. We let the other one lead when it's time. It's a really natural process now, because we've had some doozies of, you know, arguments over our lives. Every once in a while that happens, but pretty much no, there's just no final word. We kind of just, we figure it out.
Grease gets the last word.
Work in my house.
Okay. Okay. Are there a set of governing rules or foundational truths that guide your relationship?
At this stage of my life, because I'm a little older than 50 and been married 35 years, I just want to have fun. Time is more important to me than money is. And so I just want to do things that are fun for her and are fun for me. It sounds very simplistic, but that's just the way I plan on living, however many years I have left. That's how I plan on living, just doing what I enjoy doing, what I consider to be fun.
For me, we're well past the point of red flags at this point. I mean, there's really nothing anymore that's like, for one, all that. I mean, we surprise each other every once in a while, but like we're like cruising at this point, and most everything is good. And I'm with Patrice. I mean, right now, what we're trying to do is just support. You know, like we want to achieve and do things together, and we want to do things separately, and so we want to just keep rolling. So we just push each other all the time.
You guys here. What kind of women or woman do you find to be the most challenging to date, and why?
I was in a relationship recently, even though I'm sort of single at this point.
Okay.
It's new, and so I'm still dealing with that final, you know, it being final. Being with someone who I was in love with for over 2 years. I found it extremely challenging when there were so many things that even after 2 years I still didn't know about her, because of just not being open to communicating about the very important things. Like, for example, you can't be with me 2 years and talk about wanting to move in together and establishing a household, and you haven't really taken the time to understand where I'm at with my individual bills and debt and what I have to do on a daily. What's my credit score? When you're with a woman for a year and a half, going on 2 years, and she doesn't know your credit score or your trajectory for where you're taking your credit score, even if you met me when I was at 7, you know, you shouldn't, after 2 years, I'd be at like 778. I mean, shouldn't you have that knowledge? And I found it extremely challenging to be with a woman who wanted to tell me these were things we needed to do, like move in and to get married and to, you know, go shopping for a ring, and knew so very little about me and the most important things about me, and then wanted to try to exert some sort of, you know, expectations every now and then, like I'm supposed to do this and I'm supposed to do that because we're together. I'm like, you don't even know the last time I spoke to my daughter. It was challenging to take direction from a woman who's a good woman, but who was making it very difficult for me to feel like she was the right woman for me, when there were so many things she still didn't know about me.
Well, let me ask you this, whose fault, if there is a fault, that you guys didn't know each other? Because you said, what, 2 years you guys
It's
were
almost 2 years.
So what was going on in those 2 years? Were you not talking? Were you just going and eating and just?
Yeah, we were having a great time. I mean, I'm 50, and so I'm not married. I've never been married, and a part of that relationship for me was all in. This is feeling really good to be with someone who I can connect with on surface level. Go out, look great. Go on vacation, look great. Go meet each other's friends and family, and hang out. But we can't have conversations about marriage. We just can't. We can't have conversations about moving in together. We can't have conversations about purchasing property if we don't sit down and talk about each other's finances.
Did you try to initiate that?
Of course.
And
I
what
wouldn't
happened?
even be saying it was a challenge if I didn't. It was very dismissive, like, well, you should be able to, it was just an assumption. Like, if I pick a house, you and I should be able to get that house. And I was like, well, how much would the mortgage be? And her response would be something like 35, 4,000. And I would go, yeah, well, you know, I don't pay anywhere near that right now, living by myself. So if I'm gonna do that, are we gonna do that together? And it was never a easy conversation. And I just think it was a challenge. I never said that it was something that had to be, you know, finalized in our first 6 months or whatever, but every time we had this conversation about our future, things just were too vague for me, and I wasn't gonna commit to, you go find a house and then now I'm committing to 4,000 a month. You know, it was just like she had such a vision that I did not dislike the vision. I disliked the thinking that that vision was gonna ever be for the both of us, unless we sat down and you talked to me about me, and then let me learn more about you.
Sure.
It was maybe she was more comfortable where she was. I just wasn't comfortable with her not knowing where I was.
It sounds like perhaps your values may have been in terms of her not understanding the value that you placed on some of that stuff, like credit and that kind of thing, and the conversations therein that would have been had leading up to that point.
Yeah.
Were there any other times, aside from this one, going into it, where you saw maybe we're not really seeing eye to eye on it? And if there were, we don't need the specifics of it. If there were, what made you turn a blind eye to it?
Love, just really looking at how much more I enjoyed being with her. And if we weren't talking about a house, then if that conversation wasn't happening and creating tension,
Sure.
we were fine with going out and eating and having fun and stuff like that.
So it's interesting hearing you say that, because it kind of points to what the gentleman said earlier about he just wants to have fun.
Yeah.
But they got 35 years on it, you know, where they have gone through what you're talking about in terms of those things and setting an understanding in terms of that foundational understanding about where they are, right? So it sounds like you got there much quicker than they got there because you kind of started in that place. For those that are listening who can learn from you, what would you tell them about that experience?
I would say be a lot more. I would pace myself differently next time, because there's going to be a next time. But I wouldn't jump head first and just ignore a lot of the most important things that needed to be discussed. For example, I gave her a credit card because I wanted her to have the opportunity to not be in a jam and not feel like her man, didn't provide her with some way to deal with an emergency. Not that she needed it. I thought it was an important gesture to make sure that she had a credit card that belonged to me, whether it was hair, an emergency, whatever. I give her the card one time when she asked for new tires. She doesn't buy the new tires, but she buys a Gucci bag and something else from Neiman Marcus. My phone goes off and says that I've just made a purchase for $2,600, right? She didn't understand why that ticked me off so much, because it was the principle that you asked me for the tires, so go get them. But you didn't get the tires. And then for me to see that $2,600 has been spent for fashion or just for bags. And what's even more important about this is that I said no in Florida on vacation to the same
To
bag.
that same bag.
And so nothing changed. And if we're on a cruise and we're in LA and you ask me for a bag and I say not right now, I just spent X amount of money on vacation, it doesn't change when you ask me for tires and I give you this card and then you go do that. And then when we talk about it, it's, well, I'm your woman and what's the problem? We've been together, you gave me your card. It's not like I stole it. I knew you were gonna see it and missed the entire part of having the conversation with me. So it goes back to that challenge about the house and the challenge about planning a future with a woman who just didn't value taking the time to have a conversation with me about things that were really laying the foundation for what my future would look like with her. And so I would say to anyone, it's gonna be very important if you're single and you're looking at 50 over, to be in a relationship, to just take your time, maybe even for the first year, to really get to know a person, because there's no rush. I've been this long without a woman that I'm married. I'm not gonna rush into it now because I've learned my lesson.
Okay. It's interesting because he said something that we've talked about with on other episodes, the importance of, with relationships, going in not just heart first, but also head first. It sounds like that's what you're doing. You say you love her, and it's clear that you do, but you're thinking about it, and that's unfortunately what a lot of women don't do. They feel good, they're going on vacations, they're meeting the families, everybody's jiving. He's the one. So I commend you for, I don't know if it's that level of maturity at 50 or if it's just who you are, but whichever, it's a good thing. I want to just follow up one quick question for you, Ken. What are your thoughts and or experiences dating women who expect you to take care of them financially?
I don't do it. I mean, I can just put a period on that one.
Yeah, well, here's another piece to that. What are your thoughts or experiences in dating a woman who has more financial resources than you? So you may not want your nails done, but you may need some tires. Are you gonna go to her and get some tires?
So let me back up and start where he started with, like,
Okay.
what type of woman do I prefer?
Okay.
Or what do I feel I'm equally yoked with? So number one is, I like confident women. I like independent women. I like women that, that they don't have to tell me this, but the way they're governing their lives, they got their stuff together. They're like, look, you can leave any day now. So we can really get to the real thing is that I deeply appreciate women that are very intellectual, but don't wear it on their sleeve. Like, You have to tell me you got a graduate or doctor's degree. It'll come out in your actions and so forth, but you don't have to keep talking about or speaking in a certain way. And where I'm going is, I at the same time feel the same about me. I'm very confident, very independent, very accomplished. And just sometimes in a relationship, I really want to be in one that's equal to where, you know what, there are times I don't feel like driving. I'm like, look, I need you to figure out this problem for us. Like, I like women who are fully capable of driving, but they give me a little deference and they go, here, honey, you drive for a little while. And we just go back and forth, driving the relationship, solving problems. I deeply love women who are very versatile in their conversation and who are well-read. So we have a lot to talk about, a lot of things that we want to discover together. So getting back to the whole thing about buying a bag and so forth. Do I have a problem with it? No. Have I done it? Yes. But where I mind it is where I am the independent variable and she's the dependent variable. Mm-hmm. That's where I mind it, where then we get into that sort of unilateral relationship. And that's very one-sided. Mm-hmm. And then eventually, and if it gets down to that, eventually whoever is the independent variable can sometimes build a little bit of, begin to discount the person that gets old. You know, you want somebody that they fully can handle their own thing. So when you do give them something like that, they really appreciate it because they look at it as a gesture, not a part of the relationship.
Sure.
For everybody, one of the things that we talk about all the time on this podcast is whether there is the one for you, whether there is somebody that that you knew from the beginning was the one, and the premise is that in life, for the most part, you only get one. We've done a lot of research. We talked to over 600 women and ran some surveys, and we found is that 87% of the folks that we talked to do believe that there is one person. I'm talking in life.
And that's regardless of their current situation. They
Regardless of their
may be
current
happily
situation.
married with, Joe or Ricky,
Mm-hmm.
and love Joe and Ricky, have 5 kids with Joe and Ricky. But Joe or Ricky may not be the one.
May not be the one. So for you, gentlemen, and we'll start with the married folks first, and then we'll come
You know
back
they
over
gonna
to the singles. Do you believe that that is the case for you or others?
I'll start with this one. No, I
Okay.
don't think there's only one. I think I'm very lucky to have found someone that I'm absolutely compatible with and that's grown over time. But I didn't know that that was the person right when I met her. All my relationships take some time to warm up and to feel good, and to like start to turn into something where it can be long term. And then it's about figuring out how to ride along and not just drive each other crazy. But I've thought about this because what if something happened to me? And I would absolutely believe that my wife could go out and find another amazing human to share her life with, and that may even be super compatible. But no, I don't think, I think that like you find people that you want to ride this life with and have wonderful experiences and time with. But I do not believe there's one, because there's too many variables in life and things happen, and there's others out there if there is something that would happen. And I would hope that if I were ever to if something ever happened to me, that my wife would go find another one. I want it to be like, I don't want her life to end because I'm gone, because I was the only one. I think there's more. I think it's just about opening your heart and finding that person.
For most women, whether they're with them, which is a very small percentage of them, or whether they're not with them, it was a very painful experience with the one.
Yeah, I'm a pain in the ass. I'm a Pisces. I'm a Pisces. My wife is a Leo. You read any book about horoscopes, and we should not be together. But somehow or another, we made it. And I bet you she wouldn't go with another Pisces next time. I think yes, we're the one. We are the one right now. But like, if something were to happen, I just think that like we wouldn't just stop in our tracks. Life keeps going, and I think that she would find somebody that I bet she'd be super happy with ultimately. It wouldn't be me. It wouldn't be the same. There'd be things she'd miss. There'd be things I'd miss, but you'd find different things, different experiences, different things to like have a great time at. I think that people find joy. There's a natural predisposition to looking for it. And I think she'd find it again if I wasn't here.
Mike?
Well, I met Patrice at this friend's apartment they lived in with her family. And after Patrice left and went back, her parents picked her up. And I came back inside and I said to the friend, her name was Lavinia, I said, I'm gonna marry her. And it took a lot to get there because we didn't get married till we was 25 because she wasn't gonna marry me till I graduated from college. And I took a couple of sophomore, a couple of junior years just to make sure I was ready to get married. But things really, really worked. I was myself. And I think I was at that time in my life, I think when you meet somebody, you try to pretend, you try to put on airs. I was at the age of 16, that's when things changed for me. And I don't mean this to sound overly macho or anything like that. That's when I stopped being scared of anything. And so when I met her at 17, I was in a good place. And I'm assuming she was also. And that's why it just clicked the way it did. And we went through, some challenges during college, especially when you did not let her speak to me when you were online. But let's get back to what we're here to do today.
I do believe, like you say, though, like too, I do feel like, I don't think there's the one, but I felt like we were like two meteors crashing. We found each other and I think there was like a destiny to our meeting one another. You know what I mean? I think there was like a moment that we were supposed to we both ended up at this place. We were working together and everything smashed together. And it was like this perfect match that's lasted all these years. So there is something magical about it, but I don't think there's only ever just one.
Well, I'll go along with that. Just say, for instance, if Patrice died today, I would bury her Wednesday. And I have a list of second wives and one of those on this Saturday. So,
I know where you live, Mike.
don't make me take you off the list now. So it's like my whole life it's just been wonderful. Now, you go through your challenges and then things change when you do get married and then you start having children. But it's just something about knowing that this is the person. I tried out for the Denver Broncos in 1985 and I got cut. Went to the head coach's office. When they cut you, they tell you bring your playbook. And then the guy said, his name was Dan Reeves. That was the head coach at the time. He said, you did some good things and we'll better tell some people that. I'll go back to school and get my degree because that's what Patrice said I would have to do. And then I said, I'm gonna marry my girlfriend. And he just had the strangest look on his face. And I was the first guy to fly out of there and get back and did those things. And it's like when your life changes like that, because that was my dream ever since I was a kid. But my dream was different now. Instead of me playing pro football, I want to be Patrice's husband. Learn to focus on your next. And that's what I was able to do. And thanks with her support and love, it's been a lot easier than people look at us and think, oh, you'll just have it so easy. Yeah, I have to admit I do.
When you said you met her at 17 and you knew immediately, what was it about her that told you that was the one you're going to marry?
I was myself. And just I'm right now this second getting that same chill that I could be myself with someone and it felt great. I never had to be phony. I never had to be anything other than me. And however I felt that day, I've been able to be that way. Now I have to, be respectful of her feelings and things like that too, because it's my job as the man to protect her. And I don't mean the macho physical side. I got to protect her heart. I got to protect her mind. These things are my job. But someone like her makes that an easy job to have for over 35 years and want to do it as long as I'm alive.
Did you have that kind of immediacy in terms of that's her?
I had so many.
Have you had the one?
All right. So Angie took me all the way back. I'm gonna tell you about my one, the one.
The universe.
Well, it's no big deal. That's so long ago now. High school sweetheart, went to college together, and that one blazed me up. So, and then after that, probably how I view the one is, my ones have come in decades. I've had one. Yeah, I've had one for every decade. So there are many ones because I think all humans are very complex individuals and we change over time. And so I think there are many ones out there for you.
I think there's the one that gets away sometimes, I was like my brother who said at 17 years old, he just knew. Well, I remember being 16 here in DC visiting from New York and ran into a young lady at the time. And we're still close to this day. and I'm 50, so what is it, 34 years ago? So was she the one at 16 when I looked at her and I wanted to marry her? Like my brother just said, he looked at his wife and said, I want to marry her. I felt that. I didn't know what it was other than a complete connection, being myself. And we spent every waking day and hour that I was visiting from New York and DC as a kid. And I thought she was the one. And all I can say now is she's the one that got away.
Well, we actually have a term for that, which we call the baby boo. Because when you're young, you're a baby, and that's the one for when you're young.
I would have never left.
You think that may have been the case?
I'm telling you it would have been.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, where is she now?
She's married here in Maryland with 3 kids on her second marriage, and all I'm saying is that we're still friends to this day. When I say there's a one, and then sometimes that one can get away.
Yeah.
And that one that gets away doesn't mean that it was a bad thing. I am completely supportive of what she's been able to accomplish in her life. She's extremely respectful to me and what I've been able to do over the years. But it was just, you see her married, you see her picture, you see her kids, and you ask yourself, could that have been us?